Is healthcare a basic human right? I mean, after all, here in the United States, we have so many rights that we enjoy. We have the right to assemble, we have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the right to keep and bear arms. Why not add just another right in there for, just to make things better? Right, we're going to be answering this question on this episode of Making the Argument with Nick Freitas, where we make the arguments to defend a free society. So, I don't know if you remember this, but it was several years ago, and there was an interview with former Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And she was asked if a different country or a person were to come to you and ask you about establishing a founding document for their own country, would you use the U.S. Constitution as a guide, as a good example to use? And she said no. Now, what I found surprising about this, despite the fact that she's a Supreme Court justice, was that she actually referenced the South African Constitution as a better example of how to establish a modern government. And one of the reasons why she did that is because she was impressed by the fact that in South Africa, within their constitution, they had enshrined a whole series of rights that don't appear anywhere within our constitution. So it was rights to things like education, housing, food, and of course, healthcare. Right? These were enshrined in their constitution. And what this does is it actually begs the question, because there is a debate going on right now. Everybody likes to use the term rights, but there is actually a deeper conceptual philosophical argument about the nature of rights. And what we're going to go through today is actually discussing what that debate is about. So we've got a couple questions we have to answer. The first thing that we have to do is we have to establish what are negative rights, what are positive rights, and then finally, how does this interact with healthcare? Because I think all of us agree we want a good healthcare system. We want healthcare to be affordable, accessible, state-of-the-art. We want all of those things. There's no disagreement with respect to the sort of healthcare we all want to have access to. The biggest disagreement is how do we provide that, and what is the true nature of healthcare with respect to basic human rights? So let's go ahead and get right into that. First thing we need to establish, what are negative rights? Right? So a negative right is also known as an inherent or a God-given or a natural right. So when you're reading the founding documents, when you're reading the different debates and discussions that were going on in the founding of the Constitution, when they're referencing rights, they are referring to negative rights. All right, so what makes something uniquely a negative right? Well, there's a couple of attributes. All right, one of the attributes is that a God-given or an inherent or a natural right is something which is considered to supersede or to pre-exist government, right? So it's not that the government is granting you the right to your freedom of religion. It's not that the government is granting you your right to keep and bear arms. It's not that the government is granting you your right to peacefully assemble and petition your government. That's not a grant from the government. That is the government recognizing a right which pre-exists government. You naturally have this right, and by government enshrining it into the Bill of Rights, it's not the government saying this is something that we're giving you and that therefore the government can take away. It's the government acknowledging limitations on its own power. So that is one of the key attributes of a natural right? It pre-exists government. It's inherent. You have it just by the nature of being a human being.